Good afternoon, I'm Vashan Brown with the Midday News. Special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. A reminder as well that you can watch TVJ live by downloading our One Spot Media app in the Google Play Store or the App Store. That's the number 1 followed by the words Spot Media. With the extension of the Zone of Special Operations in Mount Salem, St. James, and a second zone declared in Denham Town, West Kingston, Security Minister Robert Montague says resources are stretched. Mr. Montague says he's heard the calls for more areas to be placed under a Zone of Special Operations, but he says this must be carefully planned because of the resource constraints. As it relates to St. James, Mr. Montague says there will be other crime-fighting initiatives for the parish, which has recorded 262 murders since the start of the year.
This weekend, I'll be going into St. James to have a number of consultations with critical stakeholders, because equally we must remember that St. James is the cradle of our tourism product, and we have to look at the effect and balance, create that balance. How will it affect the tourism? How the murders that are actually going on affecting tourism?
Still on crime, with the country's murder tally for the year already above the 1,300 mark, Head of the Community Safety and Security Branch, Senior Superintendent Steve McGregor, says a new program is being launched to help address crime. SSP McGregor, along with other police officers from the Area 2 Division, held a sensitization session for persons in the Bel Air 2 Division in St. Anne, who will be the first to test the program. TVJ's Shamela Mitchell reports.
According to SSP Steve McGregor, the country has been recording over 1,000 murders each year for the past 13 years. He says despite police operations and efforts to take the guns off the streets, the problem still remains, which is why they decided to come up with a strategy they think might work. The aim is to make 19 communities safe before the ending of the year.
One of the pillars that you will ride on to make your community safe is one that is very dear to my heart, and it is the police supervised curfew program for youngsters of 17 years and under. And it is about getting these kids off the street by 9 p.m. every night that God sends.
SSP McGregor says young people are being targeted because this group is not only responsible for most of the violent attacks, but 60% of the persons killed in these attacks are young people. He says young people are also the main targets for gangsters to recruit because they are vulnerable.
They can be put through the little windows and go carry around guns, ammunition all around. They are faster. They are more agile. Second one is that they are not on our records. They have no record before, so the police don't easily know who they were before. So they are not on our crime block, so we don't find them that easily. And the third one, that is the most gruesome one, is that they are more eager to prove.
With this new strategy, they will be recruiting community members to do the monitoring. He says a training session will take place soon for some persons in the community to become certified youth curfew monitors. He says if families don't conform, then the police will intervene at that time.
So you see, it is the third round that the police comes in. And when the police is now coming, he's coming under the umbrella of the Child Care and Protection Act. Yes. So the police now will find out if this is a fit and suitable place for young Kevin to be brought up. And worst case scenario is that Kevin might be taken away and put somewhere where he is now safe.
Shamela Mitchell, TVJ News.
The St. Anne police have released the post-mortem report done on the body of 25-year-old Jermaine Planter of a Clarendon address. Planter was shot and killed by a security guard at the staff residence of the Bahia Principe Hotel in Runaway Bay, St. Anne on October 6. Head of the St. Anne Police Division, Superintendent Gary Francis, said 38 pellets with a white substance resembling cocaine were found in Planter's stomach. 2 other pellets were also found in his intestine, one of which ruptured.
Which may have been responsible for the psychotic behavior described by the witness prior to his death. The file has been handed over to the Narcotics Division to continue the investigations, and upon completion of investigation, the file will be submitted to the Director of Public Prosecution to determine ruling the matter.
Family members in Clarendon have refuted claims that their relative was insane and have called for an investigation into the shooting. A 21-year-old Jamaican hairdresser is facing deportation from Barbados after being held with narcotics. Patricia Stephanie Rose, who admitted to importing 2 kilograms of cannabis into Barbados, has been handed over to immigration officials for deportation after paying a $5,000 fine to a magistrate's court. Rose, who is from Morant Bay, St. Thomas, was on remand at Dodds Prison since September 29. She pleaded guilty last month to possession with intent to supply, trafficking, as well as importation of ganja. She was arrested on September 27 at the Grantley Adams International Airport, where customs officials discovered 3 taped packages containing the illegal substance in her bag after arriving on a flight from Kingston. Recommendations are to be made to Parliament to revise the way draft bills from private members of the lower house are supported and actioned by the Minister of Justice. This suggestion was made at Wednesday's sitting of the Public Administration and Appropriations Committee of Parliament, PAAC. Committee member Fitz-Jackson raised the issue with the Minister of Justice representatives, indicating that 5 months after withdrawing a bill to amend the Banking Services Act, he is yet to get a response from the Justice Ministry to support the bill. We have more in this report.
Opposition Member of Parliament and PAAC member Fitz-Jackson tabled and withdrew a bill seeking to amend the Banking Act to end several banking fees imposed on depositors. He indicated that the bill would be strengthened before being taken back to the lower house for debate. However, when the Justice Ministry faced the PAAC on Wednesday, Mr. Jackson highlighted that despite efforts to get assistance with the legislation, he is yet to get any reply from the Justice Ministry.
The things that the bill is seeking to correct, it is a failure of the justice system why people are subjected to those unfair treatment by the financial deposit-taking institution. The main impediment right now as we speak is the failure of the justice system to give support, to cause a bill to come to this house and be passed. If that was done, the bill would have been passed already.
According to Solicitor General Nicole Foster Pusey, the procedures for the Justice Ministry to action any bill follow specific guidelines.
The framework within which we operate now is that we rely on, or we work on the basis of legislation that is being pursued by the various ministries. So it comes under that framework to us.
According to Mr. Jackson, he has already given documents and instructions to several representatives of the Justice Ministry, including the Attorney General, and had to resort to seeking legal assistance on his own from private attorneys. He is therefore demanding that action be done either to handle the matter urgently or for the ministry to pay the cost incurred to have it done through the private sector.
What would be useful is for there to be the establishment of such a framework, because in the past, what I was advised by my division is that when you have private members' bills, we're not usually involved. So for example, there are pieces of legislation establishing churches, for example, and usually persons would go through a particular MP who would proceed with the legislation, and our office is not usually involved. So that's what I'm saying, the framework.
Based on the explanations from the Justice Ministry, 2 decisions were reached. Firstly, for Mr. Jackson to make the necessary submissions to the Solicitor General and Chief Parliament Counsel to get the bill moving as soon as possible.
But secondly, we are going to, as a specific recommendation to the Parliament, indicate that members of Parliament, there must be a formal mechanism in place to support members of Parliament with regard to their advice and how they execute their duties with regard to private members' bill and just getting the knowledge with regards to parliamentary matters.
Herman Green, TVJ News.
The government says it will be constructing 2 new indigent houses in the parish of St. Thomas. The houses are expected to be completed this financial year. The announcement was made by Local Government Minister Desmond McKenzie at the launch of Local Government Month in St. Thomas.
We're going to be rolling out those 2 indigent houses and going to be providing substantial support to the St. Thomas Poor Relief Department, because St. Thomas is one of those parishes that represents a high concentration of indigents across the country.
The communities which will benefit from the houses are Trinityville and Morant Bay. Meanwhile, the minister says he has given instructions to the National Works Agency, NWA, to carry out urgent roadworks in St. Thomas.
Coming here was not an easy trip, Mayor. The roads, Mayor. I did, Mayor, make a call when we came off the Yalas Bridge. I did make a call to the National Works Agency, and I'm expecting that by tomorrow into Tuesday, the conditions there would have been improved based on the call that I made.
And still on road conditions, Member of Parliament for Southeast Clarendon, Rudyard Spencer, yesterday visited the Palmer's Cross community, where residents have been protesting poor roads for days. The residents and the taxi operators demanded that their MP walk with them in order to get a first-hand look at the road conditions they've been complaining about for quite some time. The residents also used the opportunity to voice their concerns.
The road was in this horrible condition. And I will block the road and you come. Right. I will say, Mr. Spencer, the road want to fix. You know what you turn and say? You don't have to worry. I'm going to pave this road. We're going to crepe it up and pave it like a nail and give you. For the first time you win. That's not true. From the I will rocks. See where you tell me right. That's
At the end of the walkthrough, Mr. Spencer made this announcement.
For them to do an estimate on the road. When that is done, I'm in a position to talk to the Prime Minister. One, I must be able to tell him what it going to cost. And the only place they'll accept such an estimate is from the Works Agency. I promise to come back to the people next week, Thursday, at 10 o'clock to tell them where we are and how we move forward.
News overseas now. The Palestinian militant group Hamas has returned control of Gaza's border crossings with Israel and Egypt to the Palestinian Authority. The announcement is in line with a unity agreement reached last month between Fatah and the party of Palestinian President Mohammed Abbas and Hamas, which seized control of the coastal enclave a decade ago.
So the statement comes from Hamas that they will dissolve their administrative committee. That was set up earlier this year, and it was derided as a shadow government by the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank. It was a widening rift between the two sides. The fact that the militant group Hamas has now said, look, we'll dissolve this administrative committee. We're ready for a unity government. We're ready to go to elections. It's a very big statement that they're ready to move forward, give up perhaps control of Gaza and hand over control of Gaza and the West Bank all to the Palestinian Authority. But for now, it's just a statement. We need to see what the next step is and critically what the response is from the Palestinian Authority and their president, Mahmoud Abbas. We haven't gotten a statement from there yet, but that'll be what we're looking at now. Does he accept this, or does he put some form of condition on it or qualify it in some way that makes it difficult to move forward instead of paving the way to move forward? So that is the critical question now. It is, you're absolutely right, a very big statement, a move towards reconciliation. But it's a move that Palestinians, the public, have seen before. Statements about reconciliation without the necessary steps to follow through on those statements.
And we go now to sports. St. Andrew Technical have booked their first ISA Flow Super Cup participation after eliminating 2014 beaten finalists Holy Trinity 4-3 on penalties at the Constant Springfield.
The Primetime Sports ISA Flow Schoolboy Football Review, brought to you by...
Why don't you sneak inside your bag? Enjoy.
It's a 2-for-1 in the knockout games. You win your quarterfinal match and you book a place in the semifinals and also a Super Cup quarterfinal berth. Holy Trinity were on their way to doing so after taking a 22nd minute lead through Dillon Trinity against St. Andrew Technical. But Stats, who are yet to lose a game this season, halted Holy Trinity's celebration 2 minutes into stoppage time to send the game into another 20 minutes. A minute into that period, Stats lost a player as Shamar Gibbs was ejected. The two failed to produce another goal throughout the extra time period, and so it was down to penalties. Noel Walker, Australia Alexander, Jamar Brown and Barrington Bailey put Stats 4-3 up from the spot. But when Nicholas Thomas missed the chance to make it 4-4, it meant Holy Trinity were on their way out. The teams had already missed a penalty each.
Well, we played a solid game today. We went down early in the game, but the team stick to the task. We were relaxed. We were control of the ball. We were control of the game for the most part. Even though we weren't getting the goal, we decided that, hey, we're going to stick to the task until the game finished. That is what got us back the goal, our consistency in pushing forward.
Former champions Jamaica College also made it through with a 3-1 win over St. Catherine High. The Dark Blues were on the score sheet 4 minutes before the halftime break through Tyreek McGee. At 5 minutes into the second half, JC were further ahead. Saclane Wall giving St. Catherine a mountain to climb. Milton Walford killed the game off as a contest 9 minutes from time. St. Catherine got a consolation in time added on from Malik Miller. Second seed Kingston College stayed on course for 4 titles with a 2-1 victory over neighbours St. George's College. Captain Javane Brown headed KC in the lead after just 9 minutes. But the Purples were pegged back in the 21st minute with Captain Akeem Rabottom pulling the Light Blues level. The two went at each other, but it wasn't until 8 minutes into extra time when substituted Dwayne Atkinson popped up to break the deadlock, sending KC into the semi-finals and also earning a place into the Super Cup. Bridgeport and Calabar will meet on Thursday to round out the Walker Cup quarterfinals. Spencer Darlington, TVJ Sports.
And that's the Midday News. I'm Vashon Brown. Join us at 7 for Primetime News Package. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, have a good afternoon.